With everything that's been going on over the past couple of weeks, there was actually a pretty great and ultimately hilarious moment that played out in front of everyone earlier this week involving none other than Special Counsel Robert Mueller, Republican lawyer Jack Berkman, and walking, talking human calamity, Jacob Wohl. Now, before we get into what happened, let's bring you up to speed on who these people are first.
Jacob Wohl frequently shows up at the Starbucks I'm drinking my coffee at and overhears me and all of my fellow liberals saying that Trump's actually great. No.
We'll get to all of that.
Okay, so Robert Mueller is, of course, special counsel for the United States Department of Justice for their investigation regarding potential foreign efforts to interfere with the 2016 presidential election. And he's already gotten plea deals or indictments from 35 people related to that case, including 4 people directly related to the Trump campaign, who at this point have all pleaded guilty to various crimes. George Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort, Michael Flynn, and Rick Gates. He also is the former head of the FBI for around 15 years.
Vietnam vet?
Vietnam veteran. All around seems to be on the level.
Pretty level guy.
Now, Jack Berkman is a Republican lawyer and Washington, D.C. lobbyist, most famous for launching an investigation into the death of DNC staffer Seth Rich because of conspiracy theories claiming that he was killed because of an alleged attempt to leak Clinton emails. During that investigation, he ended up getting shot in the ass and run over by a car.
By the private investigator that he hired.
The world is a Naked Gun movie. He also tried to write up legislation that would ban gay athletes from playing in the NFL, like a law.
Seems like a fun person.
Yeah, a real party animal.
And then there's Jacob Wohl. Well, let's just leave Jacob Wohl's history and involvement for later in this story because it'll be worth the wait, we promise. But for now, let's get into what went down and why the whole thing is so strange. At its core, the story is based on and involves what was being peddled as legitimate charges of sexual assault perpetrated by Special Counsel Robert Mueller, by colleagues who had worked with him or had interactions with him in the past. And this all turned out to be, so far, complete bullshit.
Oh.
So let's work through how we got to this point, and just to be completely transparent here, we'll be using reporting from various outlets and journalists who had been investigating all of this since making contact with the people involved. It's The Atlantic, The New York Times, NBC News, Hill Reporter, various tweets from journalists working these claims.
Including them Krasenstein boys. I'd wrote off those Krasensteins as just a bunch of do-nothing tryhards, but, I was wrong.
And also, just for good measure, for those of you out here who care, here's an article from Fox News that tells all of the story and utilizes a lot of the same sources for its reporting, so whatever.
All right, so 2 weeks ago, emails started going out to various journalists with the subject, urgent news tip, from a woman named Lorraine Parsons, who claimed that someone had contacted her with questions about Robert Mueller, which eventually concluded with a cash offer if she would come forward with accusations of sexual misconduct against him. So the full email is available via link down in the description, but here's a brief overview of it. My name is Lorraine Parsons. I was contacted by a phone call by a man named Bill Christensen, who had a British accent and said that he would like to ask me a couple of questions about Robert Mueller, whom I worked with when I was a paralegal for Pillsbury, Madison, and Sutro in 1974, now called Pillsbury, Winthrop, Shaw, Pittman. Fucking legal companies. Just call it.
Everybody's got to have their name on it.
I want my name on the building. So then she states that the person who contacted her claimed that he worked for the previously mentioned Jack Berkman. Then she confirmed that she had worked with him and that when the man on the phone heard that, his tone changed and he said he could help pay off some of her debt, which she claims was the result of her late husband's spending habits. They would do that if she would meet with him in person to discuss all this. She said she was not interested and hung up the phone.
The email goes on to say that 2 days later, she got another call, and this time the man on the other line just cut straight to the chase and offered to pay off all of her credit card debt and offer her a check for $20,000 if she would just do one thing. He instructed her to download an app that was a secure chat app, and then he called her on that app and said the following: I want you to make accusations of sexual misconduct and workplace harassment against Robert Mueller, and I want you to sign a sworn affidavit to that effect. He would even throw in a $10,000 bonus from Jack Berkman if she could sign the documents immediately. She claims that she hung up the phone, deleted the app, and then goes on to say that her time at the law firm, when she was there, she didn't even see Mueller much, but when she did, he was very polite and never inappropriate.
So, okay, this is already a little weird, right? This kind of makes that Jack Berkman guy look kind of like a slimy douche, right? Well, here's the problem. After this email was sent out to various news organizations, no one has been able to get into contact with this woman. There was no one by that name living in Fort Myers, Florida, where she claimed to be from, and the law firm that she claimed to have worked at alongside Robert Mueller has no record of her working there by either a married or a maiden name. So, was this a hoax? And if so, why? The journalists at Hill Reporter decided to reach out to the number provided, but after calling the number, no one answered. They got a text back from the number that simply stated, "You're in over your head. Drop this." Wow. Along with the home addresses of their employees. Ooh.
Wow. So shortly after that, they received a call from the same area code from someone claiming to work for a company called Surefire Intelligence, who told them to, quote, stop communicating with the woman. They add that after that phone call, both of the numbers that were connected to this email and this woman were disconnected and could no longer be reached. And while this was all going on, Jack Berkman started posting to his social media accounts that he would be announcing findings of an investigation into alleged sexual misconduct of Robert Mueller. Hill Reporter contacted Berkman, who told them that he had, quote, one woman ready to go public and, quote, discussions ongoing with a second woman. And when asked about something called Surefire Intelligence, he said he was familiar with the company and that a man named Jacob Wohl runs it.
Okay, and we'll get to him. But who is this second woman then? Well, it could be someone named Jennifer Taub, who is a professor at Vermont Law School. According to The Atlantic, who actually spoke with Jennifer Taub, she claims that she received an email from a man using a Surefire Intelligence email address on October 22nd. She forwarded this correspondence with Surefire to The Atlantic, who explained that the email to her read, quote, it's my understanding that you may have had some past encounters with Robert Mueller. I would like to discuss those encounters with you. I believe a basic telephone call for which I would compensate you at whatever rate you see fit, inside reason, would be a good place to start. But she's never worked alongside or had any encounters at all with Robert Mueller. She sometimes appears on cable news as a commentator on the Russia probe and the investigation into it, but that's it.
Pretty much it. So now at this point here, I'm sure a lot of you are saying, well, okay, at the very least, these claims, they should be investigated. And guess what? Before any of this came out, a week ago, in fact, before any of this hit any media or Twitter, the FBI did launch an investigation into this at the request of Robert Mueller. So,
oh, they said that about me?
Well, let's look into it.
Proceed.
Yeah. The people who received these emails, including Jennifer Taub, they forwarded them all to the Special Counsel's office, who immediately turned this all over to the FBI to conduct an investigation. So now let's move on to what the hell is Surefire Intelligence? How are they involved? Who is Jacob Wohl? And why did this unravel in such a ridiculous way in the news, and specifically on Twitter? Now, Surefire Intelligence, which that guy Jack Berkman claims is, quote, a real company, an intel operation in Los Angeles that he has, quote, known for a long time, was actually only incorporated less than 3 weeks ago.
Startup.
As for Jacob Wohl and his involvement, okay, now it's time to explain Jacob Wohl. First of all, just take a look at him. All right, cool. Jacob Wohl is officially the youngest person to be barred by the National Futures Association, a financial regulator which investigates investor complaints and fraud. Pretty much every company this dude has ever set up has been proven to be fraudulent, including Next Capital Management, which is the hedge fund he started when he was just 18 years old that ripped off clients, and that's the one that got him banned by the previously mentioned NFA.
According to the Daily Beast, who has a fantastic write-up of all of his failed attempts at grifting, in the promotional materials for Next, it claimed that the company had more than 10 years of trading experience, which would have meant that he was 8 years old when he started investing. He was also issued a cease and desist by the Arizona Corporation Commission after being accused of violating the Securities Act by selling unregistered securities. In the same article, it goes into details about how he would hire and allegedly travel with models, and that he would hire them for events, but that he also had other opportunities, including bikini and fashion modeling. In one specific case, he messaged a woman and claimed that he would set up a modeling page for her and that he could, quote, make her Insta-famous, get her into modeling, and thereby gain you companies that would want you to rep their products on Instagram, end quote. But instead, he just took pictures from her social media and posted them on his own site, wallgirls.com, as the Wall Girl of the Month. And he only took them down after the girl's mother called to yell at him. The last bit of hilarity from the Daily Beast rundown, which you should read in full, is where he's questioned about potential plagiarism regarding a site that he is apparently the editor-in-chief of called Offended America, which has since changed its name to The Washington Reporter. At the conclusion of the interview, he apparently said, gossip about whether or not I date Instagram models is none of your concern, to which the outlet covering all this added, no one had accused him of dating Instagram models.
Make sure you don't say a damn thing about me dating those Instagram models.
Yeah. And don't tell anyone about my 12-inch monster penis.
Or all of my
Wouldn't want
millions
that
of
getting
dollars. After all of this, he has become one of those Twitter profiles that you see immediately responding to everything that the president says when he sends out a tweet. And also, like Elliot said, he spends a lot of his free time, apparently, just hanging out in hipster coffee shops, eavesdropping on the libs, who he claims secretly love everything that Donald Trump is doing.
One of the hipster coffee shops he went to was in Los Angeles' inner city, which I wasn't aware of given the sprawl and decentralization of LA, but apparently somewhere in this big city of ours is an inner city. Mm-hmm. And Jacob Wohl found it.
Went to the most hipster coffee shop on earth and just started eavesdropping on everyone.
Yeah.
And guess what? They all love Trump.
Yep.
He has proof, because the proof
is in the coffee,
I guess. Back to the news from this week, though. Early Monday, before the story completely started to unravel, Wohl tweeted, "Several media sources tell me that a scandalous story about Mueller is breaking tomorrow. Should be interesting. Stay tuned." Short recap here. Media outlets get emails, can't corroborate any of the facts about them. One woman says that she was contacted by Surefire Intelligence and is offered payment for details about Mueller. Berkman says Surefire is legit and run by Jacob Wohl. Jacob Wohl then posts a link to a site he contributes to about the accusations against Mueller and pads it with hashtags like "We Believe Survivors" and "Believe All Women." Then the story starts falling apart because journalists, surprise, actually did their job and didn't take any of this at face value and actually tried to research it and corroborate the evidence that was laid out in front of them.
This is just like that time James O'Keefe tried to prank the Washington Post, and they just did their jobs and were like, "Oh, this is bullshit." Mm-hmm. Well, let's turn the cameras around. And they did a little prank of their own. Well, anyway, when journalists reached out to Wohl about his involvement with Surefire Intelligence, he denied knowing anything about the company and said, "I'm not sure what you're talking about. Maybe it's the Russians. I've contacted that company and asked them to change whatever they need to change to ensure I'm not associated with them in any way." But, as reported by NBC News, his email is clearly listed in the domain records, and a phone number that was used on the official Surefire website went to a voicemail that directed callers to another phone number, which was tied to Jacob Wohl's mom. Whoops.
Really good at covering those tracks.
To make things even worse and even more embarrassing, the LinkedIn page for Surefire Intelligence was using fake profiles with stolen or altered images posing as employees for the company, as pointed out by Twitter user Eric Toller. Their Tel Aviv station chief is actually Israeli supermodel Bar Raffaeli. Mm-hmm. One of their private investigators is actually a British model named Nick Hopper. Their deputy director of operations is a minister of a Baptist church in Michigan. One investigator and their head of government relations are people from stock photos. Their DC station chief is Sigourney Weaver's husband. Their financial investigator is Oscar award-winning actor Christoph Waltz. And if that wasn't obvious enough that some fuckery is going on here, the company's managing partner named Matthew Cohen is actually just a darkened photo of Jacob Wohl himself. What a fucking moronic putz.
Yep. No one will ever figure this out.
Real dream team.
The man is the most idiotic, diabolical, conspiracy-making wonderkin of his time.
Yeah. Like, if he had just put a little more effort into this,
yeah,
it could have at least stuck for like more than 24 hours. But the entire news cycle on this was like 6 hours.
Yeah.
And if you were lucky enough to be on Twitter and following the right accounts at the time,
beautiful.
It was a saga.
Yeah. It's like he was inventing one of those Rube Goldberg machines, but as he walked through and watched it play out, everything just kept breaking and shattering glass into his eyes. Mm-hmm. Oh! I thought this was foolproof.
Hey guys, you hear about this thing, this intelligence agency, and this like, that's yours. That's your fake
thing.
Intelligence agency.
Yeah.
That's your shitty website, news website that you make. You're all over it.
Mm-hmm. So the site that he contributes to, the Gateway Pundit, they're the one that posted the documents that he linked to in his tweets, and in those documents, the top of the page included the slogan "International Private Intelligence," which is the slogan for Surefire Intelligence. And in the hours that followed while the story was actually unraveling, Gateway Pundit took the documents down, and they're claiming that they're still investigating the accusations and are also looking into new allegations that Wohl was involved in the company from which the documents were attained.
Yeah, I mean, you really gotta go above and beyond to make a website like Gateway Pundit turn on you.
Yeah,
when you're already
immediately
established as one of their allies. It's pretty. I mean, he named his fake company after the one thing he lacks: Surefire Intelligence.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful, isn't it? Now, throughout the day yesterday, Wall followed up his big document reveal with tweets that accused the mainstream media of trying to smear him, that the woman and the alleged payment to the woman in question is fake news, and that the claims were invented by the mainstream media aimed at discrediting an actual accuser.
So what this appears to be is a scheme cooked up between Wall and Berkman, and God knows who else to do his parents, Jacob Wohl's parents. They're all going to get a big family-sized cell together.
Yeah.
But they all want to do one thing. Well, a couple of things. They wanted to discredit Robert Mueller and the investigation by proving that he was guilty of habitual sexual assault throughout his career. They wanted to set up the media to look bad if they ran with a story without confirming the identity of the accuser. They wanted to set up the media to look bad because denying the story would make it look like they're discrediting the accusers. They wanted to make it look like Mueller is attacking them because his office turned the information over to the FBI for investigation. But yeah, the whole thing's a real shit sandwich. And it was an absolute joy to watch it all unfold. Oh, also, the date that they say one of the sexual assaults took place, like, it was in a state, like a completely different state that Robert Mueller was in because he was actually serving jury duty at the time. Whoops. Again, the least amount of work you could have put into this to make your bullshit a little bit believable.
Yeah,
we've gone a long way.
I'll say it was fun to watch journalism happen live as more and more pieces fell apart.
Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, but wait.
Hold
Guys, there's still a press conference set for Thursday morning. They're running with this. So who knows what's going to happen next.
I will say, the guy who's doing the press conference, Berkman, he has had a couple press conferences that have never happened. So
I think it's happening at like a Holiday Inn.
Yeah, it's in DC at one of the hotels. So I'm sure that someone will be there. The FBI, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, one thing that could happen, well, outside of Jacob Wohl potentially going to prison for a very long time because of his involvement in what appears to be a harebrained scheme concocted to discredit a person whose very job it is to investigate accusations and who is more than happy to open up an investigation into the claims. That's one thing that could happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, can't wait for that press conference. Prove me wrong. Jacob, he's going to come out and he's going to have a super tight case and we're all going to be like, dang.
And then,
gosh,
Surefire Intelligence is going to replace the FBI.
Yeah. Christoph Wall's just pissed because they blew his cover.
Yeah. Like, the whole time he was just a plant in our country, wooing us all with his great acting ability.
Acting is just my side job. I'm actually a corporate spy.
And I bet Sigourney Weaver was very surprised to find out that her husband was involved.
Yeah, it's like the plot of True Lies.
All under false names, too. So that's all of that explained. Hope you enjoyed it because it was frantic trying to keep up with all the stuff that went down yesterday. And it's not over yet. It's going to continue tomorrow, so we'll see. Should be a pretty entertaining day.
Jacob Wohl, he just needs some friends. This is why you need friends. Someone pointed out...
He finds all his friends on Craigslist.
Well, someone on Twitter, I can't remember who, someone I follow, pointed out that on his like entire Instagram feed, his pictures are all by himself. Like, he has no picture. Like, the only pictures he has with other people are like with his dad or with the president.
Yeah,
and that's it.
He posted a picture on
boy.
Twitter yesterday where he was just trying to look cool, where he's smoking a cigar, but it's one of those like tiny little tiny little cigars, and wearing like a weird glove
on his hand.
It's just like, I don't know if this is supposed to like turn me on, but it's not working.
No.
It's not working, Jacob. I'm not turned on. Anyways, watch our other episodes from this week. We have a brand new episode of Tech News Day, and we also have a sort of review of Red Dead Redemption. Go enjoy the comments in both of those. Red Dead's a great game. It's fine.